Hi, boys and girls. My name is Lisa, and I am a reader here in the reading room for Cops and Kids. I've been doing this for a lot of years, so I probably have seen some of you before. And today we have a very special story. I know most of you have probably heard of Harry Potter, the wizard, and his friends, but this story is about a man, a farmer, named Harvey Potter, and he has a balloon farm. Can you believe it? I've never seen a balloon farm. Let's see what happens in this story. Harvey Potter's balloon farm. Harvey Potter was a very strange fellow indeed. He was a farmer, but he didn't farm like my daddy did. He farmed a genuine U.S. government-inspected balloon farm. No one knew exactly how he did it. Some folks say that it wasn't real, that it was magic. But I know what I saw, and those were real, actual balloons growing out of the plain old ground. Harvey Potter had some of the prettiest colors you ever want to see on a balloon. Pleasin' purple, orange ray sun, yellin' yellow, there was ripped two-shot red and jelly bean black, bloomin' blue, and grassy green. He had all kinds of shapes, too. Round balloons, long ones, animal shapes, clowns with big noses and mouths. He even grew monster balloons with scary faces and great big sharp teeth in time for Halloween. And I just have to show you this picture. Have you ever seen anything so beautiful as this balloon farm? I would love to see one for real. Keep your eyes open and let me know if you ever find one. I tell you, Harvey Potter was a strange fellow, all right. To look at him, he was quite plain. Never wore nothing to draw attention to himself. His hair was kept close cropped to his head. Overalls with a shirt underneath were his uniform. There was nothing special about his face either. What wasn't so plain about him was the conjure stick he carried with him wherever he went. Sometimes he used it to scratch his back, but mostly he just carried it under his arm. It was Weasel Mayfield who called the government on him, so the government came out to Harvey Potter's balloon farm bright and early one morning. Our whole town turned out for them, and though nobody said what they thought, we all held our breath, hoping we could keep our balloons. We never knowed how to grow nothing but trees. Maple, sycamore, pine, oak, and regular kinds of stuff like corn and okra and tomatoes. But Harvey Potter grew balloons, and no one knew what he used for seeds either. Anyway, the government men were standing around in white coats and white hats and white gloves. They kept us so far back we could hardly see. But I climbed right up in the sycamore tree and saw everything. And I want to point this out, that you find this little girl who's telling the story, and there she is, hiding right up in the tree. They pulled and they poked, and finally they pricked one of those plants with a pin. And what was supposed to happen did. The balloon popped. Even they couldn't argue with that. So they gave Harvey Potter the right to grow balloons. He never asked them for it, mind you, but he took it anyway, just to be polite. Let me tell you, it made everybody happy. Well, almost everybody. Weasel was sore. Now, I had quite an interest in Harvey Potter's balloon farm, and I decided I was going to get to know him. He didn't seem to mind. In fact, he let me get to know him right good. I'd bring him lemonade or sit on his porch and swing in his swing, but he never would confide in me about how he grew those balloons. I didn't pry. After a while, I just liked going around him. He didn't ask you no questions about why you weren't this or why you weren't that. He just let a person be. He let a person sit and think out loud sometimes, and well, that's a mighty good thing to do. Still, something in me was a hankering to know. So I decided I was just going to go out there in the nighttime. That was when he did all his field work. I told you he was strange. I wonder what she's going to find when she goes out there at night. Let's listen. To this day, I am indebted to that sycamore tree and to that big old moon. It was as full as it was wide that night. I saw him the second he opened his door, plain as day. He stood there on his front porch, hands inside his pockets, looking straight ahead where the fields were. That conjure stick was under his arm. He just stood there, eyes staring straight ahead at something off yonder ways. Then he came down off that porch. Step, step, step. His steps all seemed so big and so loud. Must have been his heavy field shoes. He walked down to the field and without a sign of warning, commenced to holler. The next thing I knew, he started dancing and prancing with that stick held out in front of him like it was his dancing partner. Then that stick started to glow nice orangey color and stood up directly on its own. And when it rose up into the air, Harvey Potter rose up right along with it. The two of them were making some mighty fine footwork, 6 feet or so off the ground. They were a-floatin' and a-bobbin'. Why, it appeared as if the two of them had turned into glowing balloons themselves. Altogether, it was a very strange sight, which got even stranger. Harvey Potter dropped back to the earth, grabbed hold of that stick, and waved it round over his head. He whooped and he hollered and he yelled as he carried on so. Ee-ya-ya-ya-ya-ya-ya! Ee-ya-ya-ya-ya-ya! I am not ashamed to say I was almighty scared. I would have jumped right down and run for home, but my eyes were just plain glued to Harvey Potter. Then Harvey let go of that stick, and it started to bounce and float over the field, dropping down here and there in nice, neat rows. And all the while, Harvey Potter just kept a whooping and a screeching, ee-ya-ya-ya-ya-ya-ya, ee-ya-ya-ya-ya-ya. All of a sudden, that stick came to a complete halt and flew right back into his hand. That's when Harvey Potter stopped screeching. He turned around and looked directly at that sycamore tree. I thought for sure he saw me, but I guess not, 'cause he turned back on around and went into his house and didn't come out again that night. I wonder what's happening here. I climbed down and fell off to sleep waiting. In the morning when I woke up, wet with dew and shivering cold, little bitty colored mounds were popping up all over the ground. When I ran back after supper time, they had all come up in the glory of that day's sun. I tell you, it was a sight. Harvey Potter saw me out there in his fields admiring his latest crop of balloons. He said I could take as many as I wanted. I took 3. A clown and an elephant, and I couldn't resist the jelly bean black one. I didn't touch the monster ones on account of they were just plain too scary. Oh, those were the times. Harvey Potter went right on growing the best, prettiest balloons this side of anywhere. And we never heard a word from the government again, either. As for Weasel Mayfield, he was so riled up over the fun we were having with our balloons, he packed up and moved off to parts unknown. This is a great picture of the little girl. There's Harvey, and there's his conjure stick. And look, they're even gathering up bunches of balloons together. You might see this kind of a thing in fields during harvest time in September and October, but you don't see balloons. And there's cranky old Weasel Mayfield. He's packed up everything and moving out of town. I remember those days well. It was the summer of '59 when I was hankering to leave home myself to find out what the world had to offer. Harvey Potter grew me a balloon that was big enough to carry me off, and that's how I landed in this place here. I never did go back home and never did want to. This place here was just right for me. These days, I'm a farmer, and I am not one to brag, but I have harvested my 32nd crop of balloons. Now, I don't grow mine the exact same way as Harvey Potter does on account of I am not Harvey Potter. I have my own methods. Maybe I'll show you someday. Wouldn't it be neat to be able to grow balloons out of the ground? all the colors that you like and all the shapes that you want. That would be really neat. Hope you like this story. Okay, boys and girls, we're going to make a very simple but fun craft today after having read Harvey Potter's Balloon Farm. You'll need a paper plate, a balloon, and a stick, some tape, and some markers. I wonder if you can already guess what it's going to be. Now, you can decorate the plate any way you want. Maybe you want to write your favorite picture on there, or you want to make all different colors. This is what I did with mine. And if you look at the back, it's not as pretty, but it keeps that on there pretty secure. So I am going to say that if you have this at home, and you don't have to use this kind of a stick, maybe you can find a stick outside somewhere too, like part of a tree that's broken or something. Don't get a really big limb though, just something very thin, and you're going to tape that to the back after you decorate. I made, as you can see, a quite beautiful design on mine. I tried to use a lot of different colors just because I like to. You do what you want. Have mom maybe, or dad, or your bigger, older brother or sister tape that on there and give you enough to hold on to. And then, of course, you have to blow up your balloon, and you can make a fun craft. And if your sister and brother make one, you could play like badminton together, back and forth. See who can keep it up, 10 times, or just going back and forth to each other. Have a fun time with it, and I hope you enjoy it. Bye.